All right, this is gonna be a super quick video regarding Canada, Formula One, of course, Canada Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, 2024. Uh, I've just been having a lot of stuff happening on a personal level that's just been taking up a lot of time. Nothing really bad, but just stuff that's been taking up a lot of time. And I just wanted to make sure I got out at least this video on the race. If I can do another one in a more structured way, I will. I mean, I'm holding my phone in my hand and not even have it on a tripod or anything like that. So quickly, firstly, I didn't think the race was great. I mean, it was decent, but it wasn't, it wasn't the most exciting race. But a couple of pretty weird things happened, in my opinion. First of all, the McLaren pace was not there, which is interesting, considering how well they went at the last race without any rule changes in between. Pace has dropped off, not sure why. Very, very good, solid drive by Russell, good qualifying, and then very good race. Made no mistakes, did all the right things. The Mercedes had pace. Right at the end, he actually managed to extend a little bit on Verstappen by like a couple tenths of a second when people thought Verstappen was catching him. Yet he could pull away when he needed to, because it was down to like 1.3 seconds at one point at the last, and then he got it up to 2 point something. So clearly he had pace in hand. So the tire management was good. Granted, it was a little cooler, but not very cool. I think the track temperature was almost 50. It was like high 40s. But which the Mercedes tends to like cooler temperatures. But Russell just did very well. And the fact that Antonelli came third, another fantastic achievement for a rookie. I mean, this is very, he's just starting out, already on the podium. I think third youngest ever behind Verstappen and Stroll. Should tell you that this guy, one, how good he is and potentially, what he has left for us in the future, but also that the Mercedes is performing at a high level. So full credit to the team and full credit to its drivers. I'm going to touch a little bit on George and what happened at the very end, which is a bit of a counterpoint to how well I thought he did in the overall race, but that we'll get to that. Verstappen, again, proving that you can never count him out. Didn't have the pace to really attack, I think, as he would have liked. Or rather, let me rephrase that. I think he had the pace to attack, but couldn't sustain the pace, and the tires fell off pretty quickly, which is a bit of an up and down, it seems, with Red Bull. They were definitely having that problem at the beginning of the year, and then they seem to have gotten a handle on it. Where was it? In Imola, I think, and then it just went away again this time around. But I don't know, it seems up and down with them. But the point is, he did well enough to get second, and after the fiasco with Norris and Piastri, he's now, still in third, but a lot closer to Norris than he was before. And Piastri obviously didn't put on any bigger gap than the circumstances would have allowed. So I would say, in terms of the championship, this was a pretty solid weekend for Verstappen. As I said, it's going to be a short video, so I'm not really going to go through the field, because Ferrari, I don't know what is going on with them. I really don't know what's going on with them. Williams also, there's such incredible inconsistency this season with a lot of things. It's really hard to get a good feel for what's going on. You have to wonder if basically everybody is just focusing on 2026 at this point because of the rule changes, or regulation changes, I should say. And so because of that, the development is just upside down currently, because people that were very good now just seem nowhere. People that were nowhere seem good. So it's really, really hard to say, because, Racing Bulls were also not great. It just seems crazy as to what's going on in terms of car development. But suffice to say, as I said, we're not gonna get into too much detail. Let's get to the meat of the matter with Piastri and Norris. Clearly a massive screw up on Norris's part. Now, I don't want to say I'm disappointed particularly. That would be not the right word. But I definitely can't say that I'm surprised either. Because I always have my doubts about Norris mentally. And I've said that before. I think his talent is unquestionable in terms of his skills behind the wheel to get lap times out of a car. But mentally, I've questioned it before, and I'll continue to do so. He just, when it comes to the crunch, you can't rely on him to do the right thing. And I think that really was a massive, epic screw up. He took himself out, which gave Verstappen a huge chance to close the gap. But crucially, he could have taken his teammate out as well. Now, that would have been just unbelievable from a team perspective. I mean, that would be a screw up on just as I said, an epic level. So really and truly, I don't know. Zach Brown and Stella are going to have to, I think, at some point, and this might be that point, they're going to have to step in because Piastri has a firm lead on the championship, has every advantage with his car that he can have. And so it would be just insane if they didn't try to cement their hold on the championship by instituting some team orders at this point. It's not something we like, obviously, but it's reality. I've said it before. There have been many other instances of championships where both teammates chip away at each other to the point where a third person comes in and steals the championship. I use the term steal loosely, but you know what I mean. Capitalizes on it then is the right way to say that. So really and truly, if McLaren don't get their act together in a short order, I think we're going to have problems. And I think that because the two of them are so close to each other in terms of pace and potentially with points now, because they're first and second, this will happen again. There's no question about it that they will end up beside each other again, inevitably, as the season progresses. And, we can possibly see this happening again, and that cannot be acceptable. So Norris, big screw up, needs to seriously look at what he's doing. I'm gonna finish by saying that I was not happy at all with the stewarding. In the same way, I was absolutely clear that I thought Verstappen deserved a penalty at the last race meet. There's no doubt in my mind that Norris screwed up and should have gotten a penalty. And that 5 seconds is a joke because no penalty points is a joke for causing a collision. Because in the same race, Stroll didn't even hit Gasly. There was no contact. Gasly drove into the grass and Stroll got 10-second penalty and 2 penalty points on his license. So I'm sorry. I am a British citizen, and I can tell you that the British bias is disgraceful at this point. We talk about it from time to time, and you hear it mentioned. And there are lots of times when it's overplayed because the truth is people just defending their drivers. But the reality is you can't ignore it anymore. And I'll tell you why it goes, it really rankles me with this foolishness with the FIA, There's no doubt as well that Russell screwed up at the end. That foolishness he was doing behind the safety car, I don't care what kind of garbage the FIA want to spew about it. He dropped back certainly more than 10 car spaces back from the safety car, which is a violation. And he clearly braked, right? Now, that is textbook erratic driving, which is strictly prohibited by the rules, and which many other drivers, including Verstappen, have gotten penalties for quite recently. So, there's just no question about it that Norris and Russell have just been treated with kid gloves. This is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. We saw repeated violations by Norris in start line procedures. I remember, I think it was at an Italian race where he drove off, when he shouldn't have at the start, when it was an aborted start. No penalties. He jumped the start. He just does crazy things and gets away with it scot-free. No, without casting too much aspersions, you do have to wonder if it's not just a British bias thing either. Because the fact that Bin Sulayem, who is the FIA president, is also intricately connected to McLaren via the Saudi ownership, and I think his brother, is to me insane. So I really have a major problem with how the stewarding has been taking place lately. Fundamental issues with it. right? The other drivers get a lot of penalties, yet Norris and Russell just seem to just float through with scot-free every time. Completely unacceptable. Bad stewarding, blatant favoritism. I don't like it. Major issues. Anyway, decent race, as I said. Russell deserved the win because he did drive well for it. I thought that Kimi was great. I thought Verstappen was superb as always. I thought McLaren just screwed up Ferrari. Yeah, on to the next race. Let's see how the championship is getting interesting though. That's for sure.